Hello, everyone watching. As you can
What's
see,
up?
we have a guest in studio.
Hey.
I'm going to close my bedroom door. But then I'm also going to share this to the viewing party because this is right now on my own Facebook page. Let's see. This is how I love technology sometimes.
You guys, Josh needs a producer.
I do need a producer.
If someone is available, get Josh a producer because it is a one-man show currently, and it is a feat that it is able to be pulled off.
Yeah, I need people to help me. Hey, Nick, watching. I'm gonna share
Yeah,
this.
Abby, I live like 15 minutes away, so
Yeah,
here I
Abby, what
am.
a surprise! Haha! Come down from wherever you live, Johnson City or Nashville. I'm sorry, there's a lot of dead air right now while I'm sharing to the viewing party.
Well, wouldn't be Facebook Live without some dead air, right?
Honestly, I thought about.
Is this thing working?
All right. Abby, you want to be my full-time producer? Well, full-time assumes that I could pay you. I can't. I do make a little bit of money off of this, and by a little bit, I mean a little bit. Especially this game. This game was not financially sound. Hey, Leah. Leah, I'm so happy that you applied for season 4.
Nice.
We'll deal with that later. We are here with the winner of Big Brother Hometowns season 3, our first ever live in-person interview.
Nice.
Our first ever winner interview because my wife wouldn't do one, and
Really?
then I know,
Jenny.
and then Connor didn't do one. But we talked on Facebook Live the other day about stuff. How much of the viewing party have you
I'd
seen?
I started at the beginning and watched everybody's intro videos, and then I just kind of like scrolled through, and then I'm like, man, this is just a lot of stuff. So I just kind of skipped to the part where I backdoored Quinn just to see what was going on there.
Yeah, there's a ton of content. Like, I'm like, that was, if I were in the game, I don't think I would enjoy a lot of what I've done, but I wouldn't be able to watch it all. It'd probably be
it
really
was
hard.
just honestly, it was a little like emotionally intense to relive it all again. So I just kind of had to pick and choose what I watched.
Well, but now we're gonna make you relive it all.
Yay!
From the start. We're going to talk about Max's game, ask him any questions that I may think of. But I've said this already that I thought you played like such a great game, and everything, even the things that went wrong for you, or really the one thing that went wrong for you, really didn't hurt you that much. Kind of. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
So you get into the house, day 1, day 0, and you meet all these people, and what is going on in your head?
Well, I know Quinn's the only one I know, so obviously
because they're brothers.
Because we're brothers. We'll talk about that later too. But yeah, Quinn and I basically went into the game saying we never made a final 2 deal, but we went in. It was basically assumed that we were going to be in an alliance and just like tell each other everything. I was interested to see that there were only 2 girls and 10 guys, so I knew that like they would be like sought after because they like, and it was not very obvious. Sorry, Abby and Melody, but you guys like didn't do a great job convincing people that you didn't know each other. Yeah, Quinn messaged me like day 1 or something. It's like they know each other, and I'm like, yeah. Probably.
It was real bad. Like Abby, you guys were. It was really bad. You guys like did the whole, oh, where are you from? Like, oh, you're from like the odds of 2 people being from Johnson City in this game, like, yeah,
especially since the game is like in its 3rd season.
Yeah, and one of them was played before. Like, yeah. It was pretty bad.
I just remember like I was not able to be super available for the first couple of days because I just had tons of acapella stuff going on. So I would just like look at my phone and there were 90 notifications, and I'm like.
Most of it probably being nonsense.
Yeah, most of it, but there was a little bit of fear of missing out as well because I was just like, I hope something's not happening. I was a little bit concerned that I wasn't making friends fast enough because I wasn't exactly talking game with anybody other than Quinn, really. So,
well, it's funny because you guys both came into the game in your intro video saying, I don't know how this is going to work out between the two of us. And well, immediately we're like, all right, we're working together.
I mean, yeah, because I think we both needed each other at the time because we didn't know anyone else. So it was really to both of our benefit, especially at the beginning, to stay together.
And then you quickly got into an alliance with Bradley and John,
Yes.
which I didn't realize was supposed to be Bradley and Trey.
Yeah. Quinn kind of made it unilaterally. I was kind of like not super paying attention at that moment. So I'm just like, okay, cool, we have an alliance. And Quinn later like told me that it was an accident. I was like, well, it worked out because John won the first HOH. So I'm very glad that that accident happened. Like it was.
So in your mind, on day one, was this alliance like, I'm so true to this alliance, like no matter what? Because obviously that didn't happen, but like.
Yeah, that's what I really thought. Like I was, until further notice, I was planning on being loyal to them. So much so that I voted out Ben. I had to pick between Ben and Leighton. And yeah.
Right, and you were to the alliance. So the first HOH is John's. That was the plague. Was there any worry about the advantage that was thrown out in that?
Honestly, the advantage, I didn't really think about it after it was won. Like it just really didn't enter into my thought process at all. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that.
Yeah, it seemed that way. It seemed like in the whole game, like
no one talked about it.
No one talked about the advantages at all. And granted, they didn't play a significant role in what actually happened. I mean, they did, but not really. I'm going to let my dogs in because they're scratching. Come on.
Live TV people.
Yeah. But yeah, they like didn't play a significant enough role like in the game.
Did Trey talk about it at all?
So Trey told John and Bradley he had it.
Okay.
So they knew he had it. But that was probably
they didn't tell me.
Right. Right, that's the thing. Like Trey came across as really sketchy when in reality he wasn't at all. Like
because I said from day one that Trey was sketchy.
Right.
I was like taking any opportunity I could to throw out his name and be like, we can put him up.
Right, and that's the thing. It was because because the perception of him was sketch.
Right.
Like and that made him sketchy. But I know Trey. I've known Trey for years, and like he's the opposite of sketchy in every way, shape, or form. I think he's just like.
And when I finally met him, I kind of gathered that. But
I think he's just like a little neurotic, and so or just a little like in his own head all the time. So he's like
anyway, making lists all the time.
Right. So anyway, it's just really funny because he came across as a sketchy guy. But he wasn't, and he played this like alliance with John and Bradley, kind of thing. Anyway, so John wins that first HOH. I'm trying to think if there's anything interesting with who hit who with the plague. You hit Melody, which is kind of funny
because I was going through everybody that wasn't in my alliance at the time, in my either Pineapples or Clemson alliance, and I was running out of people. And Melody was the last person before I would have to start plaguing my alliance members. So.
Maybe that was a little foreshadowing that you played Melody. So yeah, John wins that HOH, and really it's an easy kind of first round in a lot of ways. But there are some implications. So John nominated Trey and James. I think it was weird because I guess you didn't realize that him and Trey had like started working together, but he put him on the block.
Yeah.
Which was like
that was what I later found out was their plan to distance themselves.
And then this kind of starts the downfall of Ben. And your early game was like, you wanted to fly under the radar.
Yes, totally. I came into the game with a strategy of letting other people make themselves targets at the beginning. Get like one of the most. Can I just rant for a second?
Please.
Hold on. One of the most annoying things about games like Big Brother and Survivor is people that play too hard in the beginning and give people a reason to vote them out when nobody knows each other and no one wants to look like the bad guy for like singling someone to vote out. So they all find an acceptable reason to vote someone out at the beginning. So like if you don't give people a reason to vote you out, you're going to be fine. You're going to at least make the jury or the merge. So that's just my little rant.
Yeah, and I think that there were people like John was playing a million miles a minute at the beginning of the game. He was playing so hard, and he's even like acknowledged this to me. I guess I'll probably talk to him about it eventually. But yeah, he was playing so hard, and that's what eventually like bit him in the butt. But so was Quinn, and granted Quinn made it pretty deep, but like he was playing so hard. There's a lot of people playing very hard, and you were playing like right in that middle spot where you were making your relationships, but not like.
Honestly, I was worried that I wasn't doing enough at the beginning because I wasn't winning. I didn't win a challenge for the first 2 weeks of the game, so I was just kind of like, all right, I need to start kind of like building a resume.
Mm-hmm.
But at the beginning, I had to like kind of restrain myself and be like, this is okay. I'm letting the game form around me.
And so Ben wins his first veto here. And I guess that like really put a target on his back because like he wins his first two competitions, eventually gets
He did
booted. But like I think that was probably his downfall, was just winning those competitions early, which I think was a shame for him because he could have like played a significant role in the game. And I think we'll get to his elimination. So James is evicted 9-0.
Bye, James.
Sorry, James.
Sorry.
Someone in the comments, his Facebook name is George Wiedemann, but it's actually Will. He's really desperate for me to just acknowledge that he's just like saying obnoxious things.
Well, you acknowledged it, so he won.
Yeah,
you got it.
You did. He won. I'll give it to him. Hi, Will. And so, James. Did you have any relationship at all with James?
I don't think I messaged him once, like individually. No, it just kind of happened that way, you know. He just made himself an easy vote first, so there was really no reason to form a relationship, I guess.
So right after that, James goes. The next HOH begins, and once again, another person in your alliance, Bradley, wins the head of household. And is there anything like interesting going on at this point when Raziel goes home this round?
Well, we're just our alliance is excited that we've kept the power, of course. We're just all hyped up about that. Quinn at this point is getting frustrated that the target is Raziel because he wants threats to go home, and he's like, Raziel would be a perfect person to take to the end. But I don't think people were ready to shake up the game like that. Mm-hmm. I kind of had to tell him, like, listen, you're not HOH. It's not your decision in the first place. And
so this is where
it was still too early to just like break the game wide open.
This was, I'll talk to Quinn about it, but like some of the things that I was like thinking as well for you or for him, because I felt Quinn did a couple weird things at the beginning. Like there was this moment in your group chat where he suggested putting Bradley on the block.
Oh my gosh, that was the dumbest thing. Quinn, if you're watching, stupid. Like why? And then even John and Brad were like, let's not put our alliance member on the block. I'm like,
and as
there are tons of people.
They immediately were in their separate chat going, what in the world is Quinn doing?
Yes, and I was asking Quinn separately, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it was a weird moment.
What was his rationale behind that?
I think he was trying, if I remember correctly, he was basically like trying to say what he thinks other people would think. I think that's what he was like. He's like basically in his head was like other people might think to put Bradley on the block because he's played before, but that didn't come across at all. He just was like, let's put Bradley on the block.
Yeah, we shut that down real quick.
Yeah. So that was a weird thing Quinn did, and Quinn was really upset about the whole Raziel thing. And this is the other weird. Not only was he was like, we should take him, deep in the game. He was like, we should take him to the end. And there's no situation where all of you consider the end with Raziel.
I know.
So that was really sketchy. And granted, we're talking about your game, but your and Quinn's games were obviously really.
They were very intertwined at the beginning,
right?
So.
And you were like coaching him through this.
I did. I kind of felt like Quinn was just like over here playing really hard, and I was kind of in the background, like making sure that he was presenting himself okay socially, like just being like, no.
So these things. This is obviously like for a lot for Quinn, but these are like the seeds that started John and Bradley eventually like flipping on you or turning on you guys.
Which they claim they didn't actually flip.
No, they did. That
okay.
Like they're hot. I mean,
they say they were testing Melody to see if we were working with her. Is that
I mean, it's true, I guess, but John intended on flipping on you guys from literally the very, 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 very start.
Really?
Yeah. He John was like came in wanting to play this really flashy game or like make all these big moves and do all these crazy things. Like his initial thought was like, oh, I'm gonna get in this and I'm gonna make Max turn on Quinn. That's what he really wanted. That was his like plan.
Interesting.
Yeah. But instead he like I think what happened was all the like Quinn weirdness at the beginning led to them just like flipping on you guys. And they're hiding behind Trey and we're like, oh, Trey did this. He was HOH, blah blah blah. But that's not true.
Okay.
Which is another thing. It was like he wasn't playing the game super hard. He was, Bradley didn't want to like make any big moves. Quinn wanted him to, but you were kind of with Bradley. Were like, this is what we have to do.
Like, yeah, it was way too early still.
Then we have Quinn's HOH. So this is another interesting spot because this was the HOH where you could sit out or not sit out, but like play for the advantage.
Play for the advantage.
I don't even remember what you did.
I played for the advantage.
What was the thought behind that?
I guess, well, it was kind of a divide and conquer thing. I guess in the group chat, we just kind of decided amongst ourselves. Like, I guess me and the Pineapples and me and the Clemson Alliance kind of both talked about it. And that's just where I fit best in order to make the numbers even for who's playing for what.
Did you ever know where the advantage ended up?
I did not. I didn't know who had, like I said before, like the advantages almost never crossed my mind throughout the whole game. So I never knew who had them. I never knew what they were. I honestly just kind of forgot about them.
Yeah. Well, what did you think about the advantages just in general?
I thought it's hard to say. I guess if I had gotten one, then I think I could have used it well, probably to save, like probably on that Super Bowl night, I could have done something with it. I think it's a good twist. I think we should keep trying that.
Yeah.
Because I want to see them influence the game.
I do too. I want to see them. Yeah, and this is something that like I think about a lot when putting these things in. I'm like really careful about putting them in because I don't want to screw anyone over with any of these things. But I also want them to be like advantages and things where like they're fair in that people have shots at getting them. The decisions made with them are like still interesting choices. Like if you earn something and you use it correctly, like they were very survivory advantages, and that's where I come from before I knew anything about Big Brother.
Same here.
So then Quinn is trying to backdoor Ben here. Are you? Yeah, and you know about this?
Yes. And I'm kind of upset because Ben is in my other alliance, and I didn't expect my alliances to cross so soon. So I basically was caught in the middle, and I had to pick. And of course, I'm going to pick the one with Quinn in it because, he's my ride or die at this point. So I guess my best option at that point was to make it seem like I didn't vote out Ben, even though I did. But apparently Bobby also voted out Ben. And I was like, oh, Bobby's going to be so mad at me, blah, blah, blah. Right. He did the same thing. So I guess no harm, no foul. But
so Trey played, Ben had the extra vote, gave it to Trey. Trey used it and was the only 2 votes for Ben or to save Ben.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because Bobby was never going to vote Leighton out because they're like best friends.
Yeah. Okay. And I did not, Bobby and Leighton kind of were referred to as a pair the whole time, but I didn't actually know that they were best friends until the end. So
yeah. So this was an interesting move to get Ben out. It really didn't it wasn't a huge move at all, even though
it's another one of those early game rationales, which is like, oh, he's won 2 comps, let's get him out. There's really no one else has presented themselves as a threat at this point. So it really made a lot of sense, I guess.
Right, and I think Quinn thought it was a huge move because he's like backdooring Ben and getting him out and all these things, but it was basically a unanimous vote.
Yeah.
With the exception of Trey, which to me just means that all right, they got him out. It wasn't a huge deal. And I was frustrated for Ben because I feel like had he known the game better, maybe he would have like not won those early competitions and given himself a better shot like going forward, because he had like decent relationships with people, but like the Clemson Alliance wasn't super deep, and like he had this this kind of thing with Melody and this kind of thing with Trey, but nothing like crazy. So yeah,
he was a super nice guy.
Yeah, he's great. Did he? I think he knew you guys were brothers, but no one.
Are we going to talk about this?
Yeah, let's just get into this.
So
this is about when this all was happening.
My question is, who was the last person to figure it out?
I think Abby and Melody. I don't know, or Bobby and Layton. I don't know. There was a lot of people that didn't know.
Someone came to me later and said, "Oh, I knew from day one," and I was just like, I just said that at the end of or after a week, and I was just like, "Did you know?" I don't know.
Yeah,
I was floored that we didn't obviously mention it in the group chat, but I just thought that would be a disadvantage for us coming in.
Right.
Instantly.
Right.
But it wasn't.
Right. My joke was like, your last name is Teddy. It's not just like
it's
Smith.
like a unique last name.
It would be like, I mean, yeah. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned that people did not realize you guys were brothers. Like, it killed me. So
oh man.
I think people had to actually like put it together. Even like the people that figured it out early were like, wait a minute.
But then even after that, it wasn't obvious that we were working together. Like people weren't. I didn't have to convince people that we weren't working together.
Right.
Know? Like
right. Even in the Clemson Alliance, like there was times where like, you know, it felt like they were at odds with Quinn, or like were saying things that were like anti-Quinn, and you were able to roll with it. No, not a problem.
Yeah, it was insane. Mm-hmm. And I did kind of like mention to people every now and then, just because we're brothers doesn't mean we tell each other everything, which was true because I didn't tell him everything. Yeah, and I'm sure Annie didn't tell me everything. Right, but we told each other
most things. Yeah. So then Trey comes in and wins the HOH, and this is where things kind of start going haywire.
Yeah.
What happened? This is where like everything, like right even before nominations happened, or even before Trey actually won HOH, it kind of came to light that John and Bradley were turning on you guys.
All I remember is that Quinn started sending me screenshots of his conversations with Melody, and Melody was sending Quinn screenshots of her conversations with John, and this was John telling her, trust me, go along with the plan, and was not giving enough details.
Right.
So obviously the sketch alert just went crazy, and Quinn and I started plotting our exit from the group chat.
Hey Melody,
we're talking about you.
Yeah. So I've said this, and John may disagree, but like John, in this point, was playing as if he had like earned Melody's trust already. Yeah. And he hadn't. And like he could have, but he didn't. And so this is where all the pineapple is rotten would be the title of the episode. Yeah. If I made episodes.
It was good.
Yeah.
Quinn and I spent probably way too long planning how we were going to execute that exit.
So just say what happened
Quinn changed the avatar of the group meet. I don't even remember what it was because we exited after. And then he changed the name of the group meet to Loose Lips Sink Ships. That was my idea. That's a tongue twister. But and then he said, hey Max, do you smell something over there? And I said, oh yeah, I think it's those rotten pineapples over there. And we both left, and it was great.
Yeah, I immediately, that was I believe the first screenshot I sent to the viewing party.
I think it was.
It happened, and I was like, oh, this is too good. Because I wanted most of the viewing party things to be videos for people to watch, because I felt like screenshots maybe weren't that exciting, but that was really exciting. Yeah. And I sent it immediately, and people loved that.
Oh.
So now it's known that the pineapples are, it's like officially over, and you guys are officially
over. We've cut communication,
and now the game is really on at this point. Yeah. It's officially time to officially play. But the problem is, Trey is HOH, who is really on their side, and so Trey nominated John. I don't even remember him doing that, but he nominated John and you.
Yes, he did.
And John won the veto, played it on himself, and Trey put
Quinn up as a replacement.
And so at one point, was this when you guys were? Oh, I guess you guys. This was before he put Quinn up. You and Quinn, like
we tried to convince him to put up Bradley as a replacement because we didn't know that. I mean, maybe we had an inkling at this point that they were working together, but it was my idea actually, and we knew that Trey this was really a favor for Trey that we thought, like, he could take control of this game. He could get Bradley out, who was a huge threat at the time, and he could flip the whole game on his head.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Bradley's a huge threat because not for the same reasons John is. Like,
I think Bradley was a huge threat because he's played before and because you could just tell, like, some people just have this quality about them that you can tell that they just know what they're doing or that they're not afraid to do something that will impact the game, and Bradley definitely had that to me. Like, I could just tell that if he got a little bit of power later in the game, like, he could do a whole bunch of damage. So
right, which is opposite of John, who was just like causing chaos and destruction.
Right, it was a little more like bull in a china shop type thing.
Right.
But yeah, we almost convinced Trey, apparently. Trey told us that we almost convinced him, but not quite. And I'm like, well, thanks for telling us that. Like, what could we have done differently?
Right. I don't know if he ever was going to do it. I believe that he at least considered it. But, we obviously see that Trey was willing to be convinced, and we'll get to that in a minute. But, like,
Trey was willing to be convinced of a lot of things.
Yeah. So Trey puts Quinn up.
Thank you, Abby.
And now
got it at Marshall's for like $13.
And now you and Quinn are on the block next to each other, which is like worst case scenario.
Yes, we're both just sitting at each other like, well, I guess now we have to campaign against each other.
And so what was your game plan? Did you feel confident? What do you think was going to happen?
I felt actually pretty confident at this point because Quinn had played harder than me, so he had painted himself to be more of a threat at this point. I was worried about his relationship with the girls because I knew that he had kind of like gotten to them first. So I knew that they were gonna vote to keep him. So I just kind of made my rounds and just made my case, convincing people that Quinn was a bigger threat and was going to be a headache down the road. And can I just give a shout out to Leighton Ward? Oh my goodness, you are the only reason that I stayed in the house that night.
Why?
Leighton was the swing vote. Like,
I guess
he was just a toss-up because like I hadn't talked to him at all, and like he had no reason to keep me really.
Right.
But he did, and I'm just eternally grateful to Leighton.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, he was with Bobby and kind of Bradley and John too, and they kind of had a thing on the side as well, kind of separate from Trey. But Bobby and Leighton really just like did whatever John and Bradley wanted them to do.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Like, so they had a group chat. It was really just at first it was Bradley. It was Bradley, Leighton, and Bobby. It was just the three of them, and their alliance name was Dudes. I know, right? really,
So
real original. And the Bobby and Leighton would just do whatever Bradley wanted. Then they put John in the mix and kind of same thing. And then Trey eventually got in that group chat. So basically, like, I guess the Dudes controlled that vote there because it was 4-2, and Abby and Melody voted to evict you because Quinn had just like at the beginning of all this mess like gone to Abby and Melody and was like,
yeah, I'm sure,
something.
yeah.
And really,
wait, when did Quinn go to them first?
I think it was basically right at the start of you guys finding out that John was. Like,
so he instantly just jumped on. Else.
It was the pineapples were still intact when he jumped over to them and like made stuff happen.
Yeah.
So here's my question: was there any like, and this is probably a better question for Bradley, but like the battle back had to be like there was a rough like murmur or mumbling. What am I trying to say? People were starting to talk about it. Rumors of like, oh, maybe it's coming.
Yeah.
Was this something that you thought of? Were you trying to predict what was happening in the game or what would come next?
Yeah. I mean, like people were talking about it, and then we were just like running through scenarios of what would happen if Quinn came back, what would happen if Ben came back. People were like, what would happen if James came back?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And then at this point, the Re-Avengers alliance had formed with me and the girls. So we were just talking about like how if it wasn't Quinn, then whoever it was would just like go right back out of the house or something. That was our tentative plan, I guess. But honestly,
Melody's claiming that she formed the alliance with Quinn. Thanks for the fact check.
oh, is that true? Okay, cool. I learned later, Melody, that you were the brains behind a lot of things. I want to ask Josh about that. Oh, and what am I going to do with the money? Probably, I don't know. Maybe do a ski trip. I don't know, we'll see. $150 can't really cover an entire ski trip, but it'll go towards that, I think. What was it? Oh, I was going to be okay with either Quinn or Ben coming back because they were both in an alliance that I had. I guess I'm glad that Quinn came back because now I find out that was a stronger alliance than the Clemson one. But at the time, I wasn't going to say that to anyone, but I was really going to be okay with either of them.
It's interesting how the battle back has really like had such an impact on every game that we've played so far. But like Quinn coming back, I don't think so. Last season, the battle back winner was Greg, and he came back and was the perfect shield. Hey Trey.
Hey Trey.
He came back and was the perfect shield for Connor, who went on to win the game. Because Connor was public enemy #1 when Greg came back in the game. Okay. And Greg stayed in the game long enough to Connor like hid right behind him and then like surged to the end, kind of like you did. And so Quinn coming back wasn't necessarily a shield for you because people weren't coming after you, so to speak. No. But certainly still was public enemy #1 from the other side. But he came back in and won HOH, which was great for you guys.
Yeah, it was great. It allowed us to finally do something with our turning on or leaving the Pineapple Alliance. So we were pretty comfortable that we would either get one of Bradley or John out that week.
And you did. And
we did.
And Pepper, our dog has to go back outside.
His dogs are so high maintenance.
Pepper is the most high maintenance. So yeah, you guys need to. We're definitely gonna get Bradley or John out, but it was feasible. Well, it would have been feasible for neither of them to go home this round. We'll talk about that in a second.
Oh yeah.
So Melody wins the veto after John and Bradley are put on the block by Quinn. No huge surprise here. But then Trey uses his extra power veto to pull John from the block.
That was just kind of okay. Yeah, that was just kind of annoying. Like I'm like, it doesn't in the grand scheme of things. I guess it doesn't affect anything because we can still get one of them out. But I was just like, come on, Trey.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I've said this ad nauseum, but this is where Trey really messed everything up because
I'm still confused on what happened because I didn't know about any of this when it was going on.
Well, so their thinking with what they had at the time, which was this extra power veto, was that they had a better shot at saving Bradley over saving John, which I think is true.
That's probably true.
I think it's true. But what I'm frustrated with Trey for is that he used the extra vote on Ben when he knew it was a losing vote. And Bradley goes home 4-2 here. And if he has the extra vote, I think he had the numbers to flip it on, I guess, Layton, who was put on the block after John got pulled.
Was it Layton? Okay.
Yeah, so, like, if he had that extra vote, I think he would have had enough to anyway, I think he would have had enough to keep them both in the game, which would have been really exciting, but really terrible for you guys.
Yes, it would have been.
That did not happen. Trey disagrees. Of course you do, Trey. Don't worry, Trey. I'll give you your time to talk eventually. And so Bradley goes home here, and Bradley is the first member of the jury, which has to start, like, at least you have to start thinking about the jury a little bit.
Yes.
Where was your relationship with Bradley, I guess? If at this point, I guess you guys were cut ties with the Pineapples.
I mean, like, I got over the whole flipping on us thing quicker than Quinn did. Right. So I had not talked to them at this point, but I wasn't mad or anything. I'm just like, I mean, it's a game move. So I guess my relationship with Bradley was TBD. Like, it wasn't bad or it wasn't good. It was just kind of like there, Yeah. It was kind of neutral.
Then You win HOH. What was this comp that you won? I should write this stuff down, but I don't.
This was the balancing thing, correct?
Oh, yes, it had to be. Yes.
Those are my favorite.
Yes. So you win the first ever Big Brother Hometowns Facebook Live challenge.
Oh, that was the first one on Facebook Live?
Mm-hmm. It was an idea I stole from Australian Max that we did in Survivor.
Shout out to Australian Max. Thank you so much for
also
support.
Apply for season 4.
Yes.
Fun fact. And so, yeah.
40 minutes.
Yeah, you've crushed all those things. Here. I mean, like, Leighton didn't even play. Abby didn't play. But no one was going to beat you in either of these at this point. Like, you just absolutely destroyed both of these competitions. There was no chance of you losing.
Quinn says he would have beat me on this one, like, if he had been in the house. And I'm like, well, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. That. I think he would have, like, probably, like, cared enough to.
He would have. That's the thing. He cared enough.
To give it a shot for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So then. Okay, so now let's go walk through your thought process. What you nominate John and Trey, but where's your head at? Because this is where you.
Well, I formed the idea of backdooring Quinn while I was sitting there with this tennis ball in my hand, and I just had a lot of time to think. So I'm just like, well, what if? I mean, is this my time? And I'm like, I might not have this type of power again for a while, so I need to strike now, and I need to start building my resume because we're in jury, and it's time to start making moves. So basically, if someone else won the veto other than me or the nominees, then I would be fine getting who did I nominate? Trey and John?
Yes.
I would be fine getting one of them out. It'd just be like, okay, that was an idea I had and we can just get one of them out and keep going. But since John won the veto, I was like, all right, now's the time.
So John wins the veto, and then things that once again get really exciting.
Yes, I had not told anyone at this point. It was just an idea I had in my head.
Because then all of a sudden,
and then I messaged John.
Yes, I get put in a group message with John and Max, and I'm like, what is this? And you said, how badly do you want to get Quinn out? And I was like, oh boy. That was probably the next time I immediately screenshot and I sent it out. I was like, it's getting real, guys. I don't know what's gonna happen, but this is crazy. So then this is where the game once again goes all over the place, and not just because you try to backdoor Quinn. That was fine. I mean, that was like a normal big move.
Yeah.
But John doesn't use the veto on himself. For whatever reason, decides to veto Trey, which that should have worked. I mean, it still should have worked. I've said this a number of times. That Quinn should have gone home.
Yes.
And somehow didn't.
But Trey, you let Quinn get to you.
Yeah. So Quinn, I mean, this was really all on Quinn. He puts a ton of work in on Trey.
Yeah, kudos to Quinn, honestly, for hustling, because that all happened so fast. That happened within the span of an hour or so. Mm-hmm. And I just let Trey slip through the cracks because I assumed John would use it on himself.
Right, and then he didn't for whatever reason.
Because I was like, if John had used the veto on himself, he would have voted, and he would have voted Quinn out because he desperately wanted Quinn out.
Right. Quinn would have 100% went home had he used the veto on himself, which is crazy. And that, I mean, Gray and I talked about this. That changes the entire game.
It does.
Like, Quinn is gone. All of a sudden, John could potentially, win a challenge or, whatever, get some power.
At that point, I'm probably in an alliance with
John. Right.
Which, wow.
Yeah. And so Quinn flips Trey. And so that night, Quinn stays, and John is blindsided. I don't even know how
he blindsided himself.
He blindsided himself. What?
I had to convince. I was messaging him. I'm like, this was not supposed to happen. I'm really sorry, man. Like that you went home on my HOH. I wasn't gonna. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, I still won. Okay. I didn't want to be mad at John while he's going out of the house. I'm like, why didn't you use the veto on yourself? So I was just kind of hardcore jury managing at that point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I lost my train of thought. Yeah. What? So, but what does this mean for your game that this didn't go perfectly? This means that I am almost alone in the game, and I knew that doing this would really like burn a lot of bridges. Melody and Abby came to me after and said that they would have been on board with the plan to backdoor Quinn if I had told them.
Right.
And I didn't tell them because I was convinced that they were going to stay with him to the end. And like,
which makes sense.
Yeah. And like, they would just be furious at me for even suggesting it. So I wasn't going to tell them. Melody and Abby, if you're watching, would you have gone along with it if I had told you to backdoor Quinn that night? Just out of curiosity. So our relationship after that was never really the same. It was always just kind of like,
right. And you made this, you made this final 3 alliance with them, or like group chat with them.
Yeah.
And did you like think for a second that they were like with you, or you just hoped?
It was so hard to tell. I was wondering, like, are they with me because they want to be, or because they feel like they need to be? Mm-hmm. I was just kind of wondering how much of an asset I was to the people I was talking to. So really at that point, I just knew that if I want any chance of making it to the end, I have to win some comps. And that's what I did.
Well, then the other thing is you had no idea where the votes were that night. That Quinn.
No, I didn't. I did not know. Like, Melody and Abby were telling me that they voted Quinn out because they thought that the house wanted that. Like,
right.
They thought the whole house was in on this plan, which it wasn't. And Bobby and Leighton are obviously telling me that they voted out Quinn because I asked them to. So who actually voted where that night? I'm curious to know.
So originally, Abby voted Quinn out. But then Quinn said, hold on, I almost have Trey. And flipped Trey, and then Abby and Melody voted John out. No. Yes, they voted. So Abby and Melody did not vote with you.
Abby, you changed your vote? Can they do that?
I had no problem with it.
Josh, you can't just walk in the diary room and be like, oh, wait, never mind.
I allowed it because, like, it serves no purpose to, like, if that's what you really want. Like, I don't know. Anyway.
I guess.
So, but yeah, Bobby and Leighton voted as you suspected. And so, yeah, okay. I'm surprised that you were so confused that night. I guess it's easy for me to say because I know everything, but, like, I thought it was pretty clear what had happened.
I mean, I figured that Quinn got to Trey. Like,
right.
And I confronted Trey about it. I'm like, I'm not mad. I'm just, like, curious about how he did it. And Trey tried to deny it, and it was not convincing.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess he was just like saving face or something. But I was at that point, I was just ready to move on. I'm like, figuring out what actually happened tonight is not really going to influence how I play the rest of this game.
Right.
So let's just forget about it and just start over.
Mm-hmm.
I was just ready to be done with that because it was just that whole night. I was just like sitting there drained. I'm just like, oh my.
Yeah, that was. Not as much for me. It was just entertaining for me. It was more entertaining than the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But so then you kind of have to. This is, and I've said this. Like, this is where your game kind of, like, it was a huge move that you didn't make, but for all intents and purposes, you still made the move.
I did.
You just didn't. It just didn't go perfectly. Quinn didn't go home, but, like, you still.
It accomplished a similar effect.
Yes. And it shook up the game, certainly, a lot. Like, everyone was going nuts that night, just, like, talking, trying to figure out what was going to happen, what this meant for the future, all this stuff. So the next day was the beginning of the double eviction.
Yes.
And so you're sitting on the sidelines here, hoping for the best. Essentially, you have the veto is really your saving grace. This is where you really start, I guess. Yeah, from this point on is where you start rattling off all the comp wins. Because if not,
I'm gone.
Yeah, you're toast. So Melody wins the Deal or No Deal HOH, which was kind of a disaster of a competition. Sorry. And so, did you hear, like,
I didn't hear
5 of the 6 people won the million on the first shot? Because I think that's what the game wants.
Okay.
When you, like, and so anyway, it was a big mess. And everyone was so excited because they're like, oh my gosh, I just won $1 million. Like, I definitely won this HOH. Every single one of them was so fun. And a little more behind the curtain, originally, those 2 competitions were flipped, and Wheel of Fortune was supposed to be the HOH, and
Oh, I'm
Deal No
so
Deal
glad
would have been the
I
veto.
got to play Wheel of
But I
Fortune.
flipped it because I felt that, and this is a mistake that I'm still learning, is that the HOH competition can often handle a little more randomness, and the veto should be a little bit more skill-based.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, and I knew this, but Ben pointed it out in his evaluation because it's kind of what screwed him over, because he went home on the really random veto, like the one that's like pick a box and hope that it has points in it.
Yeah.
Which that originally that usually is an HOH competition, but it wasn't this time because I had all the battle back stuff happening,
Gotcha.
and I wanted those competitions to line up. Anyway,
Okay.
so yeah, this was originally flipped, but then I put Deal or No Deal as HOH and put the Wheel of Fortune as the veto.
So glad.
Yeah, you should be. So Melody nominated Leighton, Bobby, and you.
Yes.
And here's a thing that I'm considering. I guess it doesn't matter if I say this. I'm thinking about in the future for double evictions to also have 2 vetoes, like just because.
Oh, that could be fun.
It's something I'm tossing around as an idea. Anyway, because I thought about it, I was like, what if there was a second veto here? Like that day, I was like, I'm not going to change it now because I stress myself out when I tinker around with it too much. But anyway, so then the Wheel of Fortune veto, you won, and
yes,
honestly, I mean, Quinn's board for the Wheel of Fortune was really, really good, and he tanked. It was like he did not do well. I expected him to really nail that. I was looking at it, I was like, that's doable. That's doable. Just like, but he wasn't even close because he was the last one to go, and I was like, he's gonna be the one to win this.
Man.
And even further in my mind at that point, I thought that Quinn's game rested on that veto, because if you won it, then Bobby and Leighton were gonna go home. But if Quinn,
yeah, I watched your analysis of that, your 10-minute thing.
Oh yeah, because that's what I thought. I was like, those 4 guys are together. They're not voting for Quinn.
Yeah,
they might have, in hindsight, but I felt like the way that things were looking, that they did not want Quinn to win.
Yeah.
So anyway, you did win that veto, which was the first of many times that you saved your game. Leighton and Bobby go home, which is not a huge surprise.
No.
You try and save. Who?
I voted to keep Bobby.
Who did? Oh, Melody put Trey up as a replacement.
And at this point, no one was talking to me. I was trying to figure out what the plan is. I did not obviously get told that I was going to be on the block in the first place.
Right.
So I'm just like, well, I'm just going to be out of the loop. So I just voted how I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And Bobby was the natural choice for me to keep, because he had given me no reason to think that he was not loyal.
So yeah, I guess you want it. Yeah, I guess that's the only reason you just
at this point, whoever went home out of the 3, the advantage of keeping one over the other 2 was not super significant. So I'm just like, I'm gonna vote how I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did. It didn't matter.
It didn't really.
But that's what happened.
Yeah.
So then, next round, you win HOH, which was the next time you saved your game, and everyone was very frustrated, because this was a really interesting round. Because talk me through your nominations, because you put Trey and Abby up, and I was certain you were going to put Quinn up.
Well, I wanted to do another backdoor because I knew, if there was some semblance of hope that Quinn thought that I might keep him, then maybe he wouldn't play as hard in the veto. So
that's an interesting point, because I wondered. I was like, was it final 5?
Because if I put him up first, then my cards are shown.
Right.
So I just needed to make him feel a little bit safe. Yeah.
So you always intended on trying to get Quinn out here?
Yes, and that was my only option, really. I couldn't. I just needed to get Quinn out.
And so you put Trey and Abby up, and really, I mean, it doesn't. No matter what happens, if Quinn wins the veto, you can't get him out. So it doesn't really matter where he is.
And I would have just gone after Trey if possible.
Right, and anyone else winning the veto would have been to your advantage, unless for whatever
if
reason.
Melody had won, she would have pulled Abby off, which would have been fine.
She probably would have pulled. She may not have.
Really?
There was maybe Abby's not heard this if you're watching still. Melody was not intending on taking you to the end at all, because she felt like she would have lost. Melody felt like she would have lost to Abby, which I think she's probably right. And so I think that Melody winning the veto here could have been interesting because she may not have used it. There's still a good chance that she would have used it.
I feel like she would.
But there's a chance she wouldn't have.
Wow.
And so anyway, Abby wins the veto, which is perfect for you because she's going to pull herself off. And then Quinn is bluffing some kind of advantage.
Yeah, Quinn tries one last-ditch effort to – well, this was before. Like, this is – I think this is before I even won HOH. Or it was early on in that round. But he told me that even if he goes on the block this week, he's not going home. And he didn't tell me anything else. And I'm just like, well, he must have an advantage or something. But at that point, I just kind of had to call his bluff. I'm like, even if you do have this advantage and you don't go home, like, it would be foolish for me to not even try. So,
did you feel like you had to, once you got Quinn back on the block, had to put the work in to make sure that he was going home?
Yes, mainly with the girls. I just had to tell them, like, this is our chance. Like, you guys know, I know you guys are close with him, but you guys know that he has played a heck of a game up to this point, and I convinced them, and Quinn thought that he had their votes.
I did too, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, I just was hoping that they could see it from a purely game perspective. Like, this is the best move for everyone still in the house, not just for me. And I genuinely believe that was the best move for everyone. Yeah,
I think in hindsight, you're right. Because I was really starting to believe, and like this shows and everything that I put, that Quinn was going to lose in the final two.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I really thought was going to happen. I think in reality, I think Quinn would have won in the final two, which shows that, the jury was just like, they were upset, but they were maybe putting on a little bit more than I realized. I thought they genuinely did not want Quinn to win that game. They might still not. They probably didn't want him to win the game, but would have still voted.
I feel like Quinn would have gotten votes if he had made it to the final
too.
two because of his resume. He was voted out of the game. He came back, won HOH, and if he had won some power in the last half or in the last part of the game, like, he would have had a very strong case to win, and that's why I knew I had to get him out.
So then, you still remain enemy number one, really, basically the target, the guy to get out of the game at this point. Now, especially now that Quinn's gone, and Abby wins HOH. There's only 4 of you left, so like the nominations aren't super important, but I'm always interested how people put more thought into the final 4 nominations than they should, because they don't really mean a whole lot.
That's true.
But she put up you and she put up Trey.
Yeah.
And really your game just rests solely on your ability to win this veto. And this veto was the days, the matching the days with. How did you feel about that? Did you anticipate any competitions like this?
Yes. Well, I guess I should have. I didn't really I wasn't writing things down throughout the game, but I'll show you a picture. Did I show you this picture of my calendar?
Oh, no, not at all.
I wrote out a calendar of just days that I remembered, and I kind of had to match it up with what I was doing in my normal life at the time that these things happened in the game.
So
because I remembered I was at the disc golf course on the Plague veto. I was driving this way on this day. So here's my calendar that I made, if you guys can see that. Yeah. Just wrote down on a whiteboard all of the events that I remembered, and this helped me so much. Without this, I would have been toast in that challenge.
Right, so. Because this competition relied on speed and accuracy.
Yes.
Equally. And this, I have, actually, it may be right here. Yeah, I don't even think it was close. Abby was not too far behind you in your final score, but you destroyed everyone in percentage. I don't know what Trey got, but I think Trey did it. It took him over 2 minutes. So, you really crushed everyone there. And then you have your spot in the final 3. But before you get your spot in the final 3, you have the sole vote to evict.
This was the hardest decision I made the entire season, by far.
Interesting. So walk me through why it's hard, what you're thinking. Do you know what you have to do the whole time?
No, that's the thing. I was literally flipping back and forth. Do I keep Melody? Do I keep Trey? And making cases to keep both of them. But because the reason why it was so hard is because a couple days before, I had gone to Melody, and I was like, she was the only one that was even remotely talking to me about game at this point. So I just kind of latched onto that. And I was just like, listen, the other three, Abby, Trey, and Quinn, are working together. We kind of need to stick together, blah, blah, blah. So I had kind of made a final two with her, and I did make a final two with her. And I was just so concerned that she would be super mad if I voted her out right after doing that. So I really just flipped back and forth, like Trey and Melody. And I just thought about it. I'm like, and Quinn told me as he was leaving the house, you have to bring Trey to the end if you want to win.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember that.
Yes, I know that that's true. And deep down, I really know that's what I have to do. So I just knew that if Melody got to the end, she would win.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you probably saw this. I was very high on Melody's game. Like, I thought she was playing a great game, had a real shot to win.
Yeah.
Until that moment, obviously, because I felt like your best decision was to take Melody out, which you did. Which I think is what helped build your case so much more. Because one, you were taking out the right people at the right time, and winning all the comps that you needed to win. Well, yeah, you were winning all the comps you knew and taking out the right people, and now you're up against Trey, Abby, and you for the final HOH. And in your mind, is it win this HOH or it's over, or did you feel like you still had some room? I mean, obviously Trey wins the final HOH, but like before that happens,
I felt like it would have been easier to convince Trey to take me than it would have been to convince Abby to take me. So if it wasn't going to be me, I would have. I'm glad it was Trey because I think both of us knew that Abby would win if she got to the end. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I don't know how I would have fared against Abby.
I think you would have won. From what I've been told, you would have won.
Okay. Because I just knew that Abby had so many strong relationships, and I just didn't know if the jury was going to put more weight on that. Because I wasn't like super best friends with everyone.
Right. So when you lose, so actually let's talk about this. So right before we went live, you and Trey start chatting about this exact situation.
Yes.
And he brings up, he's like,
well, right before we went live, we had texted a little bit and just kind of made our decision. Like, yeah, if whoever wins, we're going to take each other. Okay. So we decided that before. And I mean, obviously I didn't know if he was telling the truth.
But you had to.
But I believed him because I knew that he knew that if he took Abby, it was not going to end well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I told Trey, I still think he made the right decision.
I think so too, yeah.
And so Trey wins the final HOH. You lose it really on a Quinn question, right?
I know. I thought Quinn would have said trusting me was his biggest mistake, just to be like spiteful and funny, because that sounds like something he would say, but oh well.
You did not. So you lose the final HOH, and now your game.
My game rests in the balance of Trey. And I was like, God, Trey, please take me.
You make your pitch, but what are you thinking? Like, are you just nervous, just anxious, ready for this decision?
All of the above, yes. But I was pretty confident that he was going to take me because I knew that it was in his best interest to take me.
Which if anything, granted, I don't think this impacts it. So if you won final HOH, you were going to take Trey.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah.
If I had taken Abby, oh my God, like it would have been roasted.
I think that might have actually been the way you lost. Is if
I took Abby, you said that, yeah. Or if Abby took me,
right?
Yeah,
yeah. And so you would have taken Trey, and I still think you probably would have won 7-0, or at least pretty close. If not, I don't know if that would have changed anything. But I think it strengthened your game that you lost and Trey took you. I mean, I don't know how much difference it would have made, but I think just optically, it's like, getting taken to the end as a really strong player. Sometimes if you get taken to the end, you're looked at as the GOAT.
Right.
But I guess you and Abby were both.
I also kind of relied on the fact that, or maybe played up the fact that I made a lot of jury members upset by the moves that I made and my association with Quinn. So I kind of definitely played that up, like half the jury hates me, blah, blah, blah.
So what were you feeling against the jury? Like, we were starting to think through votes, or maybe you're thinking about this along the whole way, but like, especially that night, what were you? as they were asking you questions? Were you trying to think, okay, maybe they have their vote? Did you think you had nobody? Did you think you had won it, lost it? Where were you?
I felt good. I did feel good. John must have some experience as like an interrogator in the military because he just took nothing. Like he tried to force me to say that I wanted to take a go to the end.
Mhm.
And whereas I didn't want to say it then, I mean, yes, that's what you do.
Right.
Like it sounds bad and it sounds like you're just trying to take an easy path to win, but like
There's no easy path to the win if you're there.
right. Like, and if you're there, and the point is to surround yourself with people that you know you can win against. And yeah, so I was fine with that answer.
Mhm.
I guess it just gave me a chance to kind of explain my game and ask questions. And
Did you like the format?
I did. Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I was happy we did it that way. We've in the past done it just in the group chat, and that's crazy. It's very hectic.
I'm sure it is.
Very hard.
And it was nice to actually kind of like talk to people, because you don't really meet them face to face ever or talk to them other than through chat. So
there was a lot of people asked kind of the same question. So like a lot of people were like, why should I vote for you?
yeah,
But-
but I kind of felt like we were saying the same thing
Right.
over and over again.
But Bradley came in with, I think, a couple interesting questions and a suit.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing.
It was great. He asked you about like the girls and like why
Yeah.
why is that something? I guess you mentioned before you felt like you had to latch on to the girls early because they were going to be like in high demand, I guess.
Yeah.
As the only two girls in the game. Bradley told me that answer like won his vote for you.
What did I say?
Basically, I don't remember, but that you did.
Cool.
You worked with them because they were the girls, but then you liked them as well
Yes.
as people. Something to that effect. And then you won 7. You won 7-0.
I
Was there
did.
any votes that surprised you?
Um.
Did you think you had Quinn's vote?
Yes.
You did everything he told you to do.
Yes. Quinn told me that if I won the final 4 veto and then 2 parts of the final 3, then he would have my vote. And even though I didn't win 2 parts of the final 3, like I did enough.
Right.
So I knew Quinn wouldn't like it, but I knew that I had his vote. I guess the person I was worried about Melody
Because she left the house basically saying, "I'm not voting for you."
Was she just like bluffing? Or
I don't
was she
know.
actually mad at that
think
point?
she was. I don't think she was bluffing. I think she was like. I think it was just emotion. I think.
Okay.
But I think she came around on it,
Okay.
as evidenced by her voting video.
Yes. So I was very thankful for that. I was worried about John just because he was such a wild card the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It was just hard to pinpoint what he was thinking. I knew I had Bobby's vote. I guess I didn't know how much Leighton and Trey had built a relationship, so I didn't know about Leighton's vote. But I was just really relying on my gameplay to kind of carry me through that.
Yeah, I went into that night pretty sure that you were going to win because it was you and Trace in the end. I was like, I'm pretty sure Trey's going to take Max, and Max wins and he wins. But like, yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed doing that.
It was cool
doing it that way. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
It puts more pressure on the final 2 to
because like it's weird. So it's another thing. I stole it from Australian Max, and because they did their final tribal council that way, and it was really cool. But also like I was a juror in that game, and I felt like it was really hard to like actually talk to the people that I had never spoken to, but had played this game with.
It's surreal, like when you actually hear them in a video or talk to them.
Right,
is weird.
Yeah, so it puts pressure on you, and it's odd, but
yeah,
you guys handled it really well. It's not easy.
I was very happy with how I handled the questioning. I was confident. I knew what I wanted to say, and I just felt good about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything else?
One thing that I did notice in the Big Brother house is that your concept of time is very skewed because so much happens in a short amount of time that you look back and you're like, wait, I won HOH yesterday, but I feel like it's been 5 days because just so much has happened. Right. And then at the same time, I know exactly what you mean, but also at the same time, it's like, all right, nominations are going to happen, at 6 o'clock, I'd say. And a lot of people would probably think like, oh, that seems like forever from now. But then all of a sudden it's 6 o'clock. It's like, oh no, here they come. It's happening. So, it's one of those things where you're playing, but you have to like
take a deep breath a lot, but it's
Yeah.
hard to because
Yeah.
everything's happening all the time, especially when the game really started, gaining the
And
momentum.
there were some moments where you would say like, "Oh, we're not going to do this until tomorrow." I'm just like, "I know, I want to do it now.
Right,
Get it
right.
over with.
Right.
I'm ready to play. Let's go."
Right. And I have to like check myself on that
Because you could like go at a breakneck
Yeah.
pace if you wanted to.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I'm like, all right, let's keep going. But I'm like, no, that like I want this to take its time because the game like deserves to have it take its
Yeah.
time. And also like I need to have a life too.
Yes, you do. You do.
Which I often don't when this game happens because I'm just so consumed with it. That's just my obsessive nature. I was gonna say one more thing. And I totally lost it. What were we saying? Time and anyway, yeah. Oh, I remember that. You have said this that you felt like you are the reason the game picked up. Like,
I think that's.
and I think you're right because we were like James at home, safe vote. Raziel, safe vote. Ben, though he was kind of a threat, safe vote. And then it's like, all right, let's break the mold here. I'm putting Quinn up, and then the game was wide open. So I agree that you definitely like turned the game on its head. And it's so interesting for me as like a viewer, so to speak, or even as a host to just like. Because I root for people, and I try so hard not to influence because it's so tempting to influence.
Yeah, it is.
But like my thought is always like I'm always rooting for like if you do something really great today, like I hope that something really great happens for the other side tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I'm always rooting.
You
for,
just want like a good game.
Yeah. I'm always rooting for whoever's losing, so to speak. And I think we did have a great game. Lots of interesting decisions. Lots of
It was
crazy
so
things.
fun.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to playing again someday?
Someday, yes. Maybe not season 4. That's a lot
No.
to handle. But someday, I would love to come back.
Yes.
But I've set such a high standard. I don't know if I want to ruin it.
I did ask Jenny because I'm pretty sure Jenny has sworn to never play again, and I've almost sworn to never let her play again. But I said, hypothetically, season 13, 14, 15, I like do an all-winner season. Are you in?
Oh my!
I said, are you in? And she kind of had that. She didn't instantly say no, but she even gave me the like, kind of like I saw it in her eyes. She was like, I can do that. I can maybe like
That sounds fun.
do an
That
all
really
winners.
does. That would be so intense.
Yes. So, season 4, please apply. The link is right here in the thing. Tag friends that you think might like the game, or just apply. It is so much fun. You could be sitting here at like Max, the winner, $150, $130, which I guess.
Yeah, net $130.
Yeah.
But
And no taxes because Venmo.
it's under the table.
Yeah, it's all under the table. That's it. We're going to do more of these eventually. I don't know who's next, but I'll let you know. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and later.
Bye, guys.